Hi, and welcome to Horror Recapped. Today we'll be visiting 2007's horror film titled Teeth. Spoilers ahead, beware. We open our film in a suburban neighborhood that is set near a nuclear power plant. As we focus on one of the houses, we come across a quaint family with two kids playing in the kiddie pool while the parents lounge and watch them. All of a sudden, the boy screams out in pain, and when the parents rush over to see what's wrong, he shows them his finger. It looks as though the tip of his finger was almost chopped off by something. But the only other thing in the pool with him is his stepsister. Flash ahead, and we meet Dawn, who is giving a speech about staying abstinent to a bunch of school kids. As she talks about it, she mentions that they should all pledge to save themselves from marriage, but she catches the eye of one of the guys in the audience. They continue to exchange glances until she finishes her speech. Next, a different man speaks about masturbation and how spanking the monkey is a terrible thing. On the side, Dawn is sitting with her friends, and the same guy that caught her eye when she was speaking walks up and introduces himself. As they say hello, Dawn is clearly mesmerized by him, and he compliments her speech. He even goes as far as to mention that he is on board for staying abstinent, thanks to her speech. Later on, Dawn rides her bike back home and she goes to tell her parents about how the presentation went. Her mother is sick with a disease, so she is mainly bedridden, but she still goes in to check on her daily. After she talks to them about her speech, she gets ready for bed, but her brother, Brad, scares her. Throughout the night, Dawn can hear Brad shooting airsoft pellets at the wall while she is trying to sleep. The next morning, Dawn rides her bike to school, but when she gets there, all of the students make fun of her for her innocence. Once in class, they end up learning about the anatomy of a vagina and penis, but when the picture of the female member is shown, everyone complains about how it is censored compared to the male anatomy. Dawn tries to explain that women have a natural sense of modesty, and Toby agrees with her. After school, the four friends go to the movie theater, but the only movie that is suitable for them to watch is a kids' animated movie. While they are watching the movie, Dawn's friends sneak a kiss or two, but Dawn and Toby just share glances throughout. Back at Dawn's house, Brad is seen with a girl in his room, and she asks him what happened to the tip of his finger. He shows her the scar of what happened when he and Dawn were kids, but he can't quite explain how it happened. He believes she bit him at some point, but he tells her that he really can't remember well enough to say so. Dawn and her friends end up going on a little trip to a nice little swimming hole that connects to a cave that the local teens go to have some fun. While the friends are swimming, Dawn and Toby have a nice conversation, but she ends up finding out that he really isn't a virgin like he had mentioned before. After finding this out, Dawn can't seem to look at Toby in the same light as before. That night, after checking on her parents who are asleep, Dawn goes to her room where she ends up touching herself to the thought of Toby and her getting married. Once she actually touches herself in the right spot, a picture of a beast flashes through her mind, and she can't keep going. The next day, their science class teaches about how certain species have developed evolutions that help them in defending themselves, and Dawn walks in just as the class finishes. Once in the locker room, Dawn ends up calling Toby to explain to him that they can't hang out anymore since they have feelings for each other. Toby reluctantly agrees, but Dawn is steadfast in her decision. That night, Dawn hears Brad arguing with his girlfriend, and she goes to talk to him the next day. Brad tries to explain how he knows that she's saving herself for him, but Dawn is disgusted at the mere thought of it. Dawn goes out on a hike to clear her mind, and she ends up calling Toby for him to meet her. Toby wastes no time in coming to meet her, and he finds out that she wants to go swimming with him. As the two of them have a good time swimming, Dawn leads them over to the middle of the water, where they end up kissing for the first time. Toby begins to touch her body more, and she tries to remind him of the purity pledge. She ends up leading him to the cave, and the two of them find a spot that is already made up for a couple to have some fun. They hold each other to warm up, but that quickly turns into more as Toby gets a little more comfortable with Dawn. She tries to stop what's going on, but Toby can't help but get caught up in her. He ends up forcing himself on her. Soon after, he yells out in pain and reveals that his tallywhacker has been bitten off from inside her. A bloody Toby flees the scene. Dawn is still traumatized and confused by what just happened. She tries calling out to him, but he's nowhere to be found. She gets dressed and sits on the trail, and eventually she rides her bike back to her house. As she walks through the quiet house, she makes her way to her shower, where she tries to wash the day away. When she lies down that night, she thinks about Toby, and this sends her into a fit of rage. The next morning, Dawn is quiet as she rides with her friends to another event, but she doesn't speak with the same charisma as she did before. She begins to question everything that she used to believe in as she recognizes that something inside her is lethal. After she's taken off stage, Dawn hitches a ride from a friend, but when he tries to ask her out, she ends up laughing at the idea. After he drives off, Dawn grabs her bike and rides away, but the friend can't take the fact that she laughed at him. So he turns around and knocks on the door. Brad answers the door and he tells him that he's way out of his league and needs to forget about her. Meanwhile, Dawn is investigating Toby's Jeep, which is still out by the swimming hole. After some thought, she ends up taking off her purity ring and drops it off the cliff. Back at home, Dawn takes the picture of the vagina from her textbook and removes the sensor. After looking at what it's supposed to look like, she gets on the internet to research mutations that exist down there. She finds a myth about teeth developing down there, and she realizes that that must be what happened to her. She goes to get checked out by her doctor, and she explains that she just wants to get checked out. When he goes to examine her, he causes her pain and she can't handle what's going on. Soon, the doctor screams out in pain as his hand gets bitten from inside her. He pulls away from her, but not before his fingers are bitten off from inside Dawn. As he lies on the ground, screaming about vagina dentata, she rushes out to her bike and she makes her way back out to the swimming hole. Once she arrives, she notices that there seems to be a manhunt going on for the missing teen, and she sees that his body has been found in the water. She rushes home, but once she's there, she doesn't know what else to do but talk to her parents. Unfortunately, she finds her mother unconscious on the floor, while Brad is just down the hallway with his girlfriend. Dawn winds up waking up in the hospital, where her father tells her to get home and rest. Once Dawn wanders home, she finds Brad getting into an argument with his girlfriend again. So Dawn turns to going to Ryan's house, where she confides that she almost killed 2 people now. He tries to console her, but he doesn't understand the talk about vagina dentata. While Dawn is in the bathroom taking a bath, Ryan sets the mood in his room with a crazy amount of candles after he gives Dawn some medication. Once Dawn makes her way to the room, she is obviously feeling the effects of the medication, and Ryan convinces her to stay with him that night. He pours champagne, toasts to her, and tries to be as smooth as possible. Dawn admits that it's how she always dreamed it would be, but the drugs take more of an effect on her. Dawn winds up passing out, and when she comes to, she feels Ryan caressing her body and using a vibrator. After some time, he ends up slipping on a condom and puts himself inside her. Dawn mentions that they shouldn't, but when he asks if he should stop, she says no. She warns him about the teeth, but Ryan tries to play the hero that will conquer them. Back at the morgue, Toby's autopsy shows that there were teeth found in his male member that was found in the cave, and they mentioned that somehow they are human. As Ryan finishes, Dawn feels a sense of comfort knowing that her teeth didn't hurt him. She feels better about everything and she cuddles up close to him. Over at the hospital, the doctor that examines Dawn is getting ready to get his fingers sewn back on. The officials there offer him the opportunity to come out about how it happened, but he simply grabs the gas mask and puts himself under for surgery. The next morning, Dawn examines herself in the mirror, and she is happy to know that the night went better than she had originally thought it would. When Ryan asks her about where she's going, she tells him that she has to go to the police, but when he pulls out the vibrator again, she can't help but stay with him. When he answers the phone while they're going, he brags to his friend that he's in the middle of doing her, and he tells Dawn that he made a bet that he could sleep with her. Once she realizes that he played her, she lets the teeth loose without remorse. As she casually climbs off of him, Ryan lies in his bed and screams as he tries to reconnect himself. Dawn heads to the hospital to check on her mom, but when she arrives, she is told to wait for someone to come speak with her. Meanwhile, at their house, the father wakes up Brad and explains to him that he wants him to move out as soon as possible. Brad ends up getting in a physical altercation with his father that ends in the young man setting his dog loose on his father. Back at the hospital, Dawn gets the news that her mother is dead. Brad explains that he's mad at his father for marrying Dawn's mother simply because that made Dawn his sister. His father ends up going to the hospital to get treated for the dog bite, but when Dawn sees it, she comes over to investigate. It's now that Brad's girlfriend apologizes and tells her that Brad actively told her to ignore her crying mother when she was in the hallway. After finding this out, Dawn heads home and gets dolled up for Brad. Brad looks to the door and finds Dawn standing there, waiting for him, and she comes over to where he is lying on the bed. As she touches Brad, he lowers his guard with every stroke, and he can't believe that it's finally happening. Brad tries to do things his way, but Dawn is adamant that they do it her way. After a little persuasion, Brad agrees, and he slides in. All of a sudden, Brad remembers what really happened when they were kids, and when he starts to pull out, Dawn chomps down on him and rips it clean off. As she drops his member, the dog gets loose and calmly gobbles up the piece of Brad's dingus that is on the floor. Dawn leaves him there and rides off to the edge of town, where she hitches a ride from a nearby passerby. Later that night, the guy she hitched a ride with pulls into a gas station and hints at how he will accept payment for his generosity. After Dawn realizes that she's not going to get out of this any other way, she embraces what she has and holds a whole new type of confidence. As she grins at the old man, the credits roll. That's the end of this recap. What are your thoughts on this film? Let us know below. And be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our other horror recaps. Thanks for watching.